Okay, welcome back to What If History Restarted. It's episode 55. Last time we saw a civil war over here in Dalmatia and a civil war over here in the Levantine country. But anyway, we're going to be mostly focusing in on Asia this episode. Now, obviously, Asia was a pretty important place for World War One. I almost said two. You had Korea and China kind of just go up against, and Bangladesh and the Siberian country kind of just go up against, everyone else. And they did pretty good at first, but then their militaries get all dispersed all across the world. And then they tried their desperate little thing into Siberia. That went terrible. They got pushed back, and then they lost World War One. But some of even these losing countries still aren't especially too bad off. I mean, obviously they're doing a lot worse. Korea used to be the most powerful country in the entire world. Now they're not even top 10, but they're still kind of up there. They're probably top 15. And they are definitely a lot stronger than their neighbor here, which is the Hokkaido country. They're kind of centered around Hokkaido, even though they don't have any cities there, but, maybe they should. I mean, they really don't have a lot of cities. Let's give them a few of those. Bam. Bam, slam. Also give 2 to Korea. Actually, we'll give a few to Korea. Okay. But anyway, these two countries have been very hostile towards one another. And eventually, Korea, after, losing World War One, needs, its land back, so it's gonna want to try and do that by invading this country. So it is going to start going in here through Japan. It encircles this city down here, and now meets the gates of these two. Up here in the more northern area, it just kind of goes around this lake, and generally just fills in across the entire border, looking something like this. They then use their really good navy to make some landings up here, and things are not looking good for the Hokkaido country. They are not in any military alliance. They did not join this one, because, this is more like South Asia, this one's more like North Asia. So, yeah. Well, maybe not North, but, it's definitely not Southern Asia. But anyway, things are going pretty well for them, but, some countries might not be so. Some countries might not want Korea to be winning this war. So Baikal is going to start sending in his troops here because obviously it does not want Korea to get powerful again. And this starts going very well. However, Korea now goes on the defense, and they start actually doing pretty good, pushing all the way back here, although they do lose all of their land in Hokkaido. I mean, not all of it, because they still have a decent amount of Japan, but that's it. As for Hokkaido, they also start pushing in. And trench warfare is still in use, although we're in the late 30s to early 40s now, probably. So they're definitely on their way out because, planes, but they're still kind of being used. So eventually the border just kind of stalls here, but eventually Korea does actually make a resurgence because they have a lot more morale in this war since they are defending their homeland. Even though they're the aggressor, but anyway, things are going pretty well, except that they're literally, so they take this city. I don't know why they don't have that, but anyway, they have, obviously they need some military support, so they start hauling out a bunch of Japanese people, including from their occupied lands over here, and forcing them to fight, and things, it's not going too well, and the Japanese people don't really like it, of course, understandably so. And if we can get a good color, we're going to see that these Japanese people are eventually going to fully revolt. And yeah, pretty quickly Hokkaido retakes all of this. However, the Japanese people up here are equally as, not wanting to be under an authoritarian government. I mean, this Hokkaido isn't really that authoritarian, but they're just not that good. So, yeah. So now we have these two Japanese countries who both do their thing, and eventually the war just kind of gets to a point around here when they finally agreed to have peace. So, the green Japanese country will be taking a lot of land from Hokkaido, who is probably, oh wait, no, they're all one religion, so never mind, I thought they were split for some reason. And these guys' capital is obviously going to be one of these two, so we're going to go with the north. Well, actually, the southern one would probably make more sense. And then as for this country, they do have a vital city, so they're going to be their capital. And as for Korea, they're going to be losing some land to both Baikal and Hokkaido, although it's not as much as they would have if it wasn't for their pretty successful, what's it called? Defense. That's right. So Korea's kind of mostly pushed out of Asia. They still have all of actual Korea. I mean, unless you count like this, because I guess they don't have that. And they still have a decent amount of Asia, and also this looks terrible, so like, how about we just redraw this real quick? Like this will do okay. But yeah. So now Korea has learned its lesson, as it is now saying goodbye to that top 15 spot. Still like top 20, but maybe even just top 25. So yeah, not too good for it. Anyway, moving on down here. Over in this Diamond Alliance, it's a military alliance, as you can see on the map, but it also doubles as an economic alliance. And one country up here, aka this blue one, is taking a lot of money in and not providing that much back in terms of support or help or anything useful. So eventually they are going to get kicked out of the alliance, and they're going to be pretty upset about that. Someone who's not going to be upset about that, though, is Blue China. They're pretty much, like, I used to just be able to call them China because they had way more land in China, but now they're smaller. I kind of have to go back to calling them Squidward China. So, yeah. But anyway, they're looking for some land, so they are now going to start invading this country, which was just forced out of the alliance. And then these, Diamond Alliance countries down here are going to be like, well, it's better if we have it than if China has it, so, yeah, and then these guys start invading as well, which is not good, and China doesn't want that, but there isn't a lot they can do. We do also see that this Myanmar country is going to join in on the war, pushing up like this, and they're also going to officially join the Diamond Alliance, like so. Bangladesh is like, do you guys want us to join? And they tell them no, because they don't like Bangladesh. But anyway, this war kind of just wages on till this poor blue country who, they were like being a little bit greedy with the money, but like other than that, they didn't do anything wrong, and they immediately got jumped by like everyone. But yeah, they're gone now. However, China is gonna benefit from this war. And Baikal kind of just did some peacekeeping over here with China's best friend of Korea. And they're not. So we're going to see that they kind of do that again. And they now push into northern China. China, though, is actually pretty powerful. And so they are going to be making a pretty successful counteroffensive over here. They then push up into Baikal. And yeah. Probably push them out with this entire half and go like this. This country might want to get in on it, but at the same time they don't want to get curb stomped, so they probably wouldn't actually. But anyway, there's a very bloody battle for this vital city over here, and Baikal manages to win, and then they kill a bunch of the innocent people living there. And like China and Baikal really hate each other. And this is definitely not making it any better. In response, China is going to do some of the same stuff over here to Baikal, arguably even more so. Like, the city is just absolutely obliterated with, planes and bombing and all that, because that is the era that we are in. Still no nukes. They don't really even have. They're definitely a lot further from nukes than we were at this time, so that's something. China knows that they probably aren't going to be able to take the capital, so they aren't going to bother with that. However, they are going to go out here and try and take this major city, which is successful. However, they are leaving their own territory undefended. Mostly, I mean, they have some defense, obviously, but not a lot. Their capital is on the rocks. I think that's how you use that term. But thankfully, Korea actually sends over a lot of support, which allows them to make kind of a miracle resurgence over here and connect back up. That's a fun event to learn about in the history books of this universe. But anyway, Baikal is just going to go over here. So China, after they do some more, killing people, they're going to be satisfied now and that their revenge is over for what happened to the city. So they're going to pull all their troops out and push back Baikal. And going into these cities that Baikal has captured, they see that Baikal has done some of the same stuff. So yeah, these guys just love each other. Great, very peaceful leaders as well. Eventually, we see that this war is just going to end up stalemating once again right here. So Baikal does win, technically. But, I mean, honestly, China probably did more murdering to them than they did to China, so it depends on how you look at it, I guess. But yep, that's the end of this war. Still need to divide up the blue country that was here. Poor guy. I kind of like this country. Kind of sad that I decided to kill it, but had to be done for the plot. Anyway, Myanmar gets this absolutely disgusting looking peninsula. Like, that is a terrible border, but that's the best that they can really do, since they did a lot in the war, but they only have a sliver of connection to them, the blue country, former blue country. China is going to get a decent amount of land, so I guess in the end they kind of did win the war, because they didn't lose any major cities, but they gained one down here, so in a way they actually did win the war. But yeah, anyway, now South China is going to be having a random couple major cities out here, because I don't want them to look as empty out in the middle of this area. Over here, this country has literally done nothing. Their whole point of being neutral has lasted for a really long time, and they have done fairly good at it, obviously. So they're like the Switzerland of this world, except they're in Asia instead of Europe, and they're also pretty big instead of pretty small. Oh yeah. So over here, and we're going to be looking at these three countries pretty much. Once again, we have another loser of World War One. This time being the Siberian country, not really even Siberia anymore, but it used to look like this, and then it lost and got reduced to this. But yeah, this green, almost Mongolia country. I think Mongolia is that. Maybe. Well, I'm obviously not those exact borders, but yeah, something like that. So, kind of like Mongolia, but they're going to be expanding the other way, or well, at least they're going to try to, because they are much like Korea. They want some land. However, as they are about to go through with this invasion, they do, kind of take a look at what has happened to their other two allies over here. They're not going to be as stupid about this. Instead, what they're going to do here is that they are going to do this weird sort of false flag operation, but not even involving themselves. Basically, they disguise their troops as troops of this country, and then they just go over into this country, and then from the border make their way out to a couple of small towns over by this lake, or these lakes, or this river. I don't know what this is, but anyway, yeah, they disguise themselves as this country's people, troops, and they go out and blow up, well, burn down some villages, I guess. And Baikal's not too happy about this. And what do you know? Bam, bam, bam. So yeah, this country obviously doesn't stand too much of a chance against Baikal, or Golden Horde. That's what they're called. So this country's gonna be like, oh no, we gotta help out Golden Horde, our best friend, who we definitely didn't just fight a world war against. But anyway, this country goes out and takes the capital of this country, and now the moment of truth. Is Baikal gonna invade them? Well, thankfully, they do not, because they do see this as, like, a good thing, because they're like, oh, this country's evil, and it should be taken out, so good job, I guess. And also, they don't really see this country as much of a threat, because if it ever actually got to being, like, expansionist, all they really have to do is just that, and that's not going to be too difficult. We're also going to see that this blue country down here is just going to be like, oh, well, if they're going to get away with it, then we're going to be able to do that too. And so eventually we just have this giant invasion. I mean, this is even worse than the death of the blue team down here. These guys literally did nothing wrong. But, yeah, they got false flagged, and maybe one or two or all three of these countries might have some slightly expansionist undertones that are just now starting to appear. So, I mean, I don't know if that makes it much better, but, like, at least they aren't getting taken out by good countries, because, well, I hate to break it to you, but, like, all three of these countries are actually kind of very corrupt. Golden Horde's, like, a little bit more surprising, but, like, they are just kind of not the greatest. I mean, they only recently joined up, like, officially with the European countries, and, yeah, that's the evidence. And also, this is in the wrong country. Anyway, this country might survive this. We'll see. So, Golden Horde is going to be taking a very nice portion of land. That will look something like this. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be surviving this one. Well, actually, maybe they will. Over here, the Tibetan country is going to take a nice chunk of land as well. Not that much, I forgot to draw this border. Bam. And then, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna give these guys all of that. So these guys will be taking a decent amount, but not all of the country, although they do still get the capital. So there's another, it's kind of like the outline of the old trade route. That's funny. So yep, this country does still exist. They're just very sad and small and weak. Left us one major city that is now their capital. So, great job, I guess. And yeah, that is that now. So Baikal is bigger, his country's bigger, and they got away with it. They're actually getting, like, kind of strong now. Like, honestly, they're probably about as strong as, like, maybe this North Vietnam country. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, for probably the last event of this video before the power rankings, because those are going to be this episode, we're going to be taking a look over at the Indian subcontinent. So, as you can see here, the gray and the blue Indian teams, they fought together in World War I, and they're now both in the Circle Alliance. However, they've always had some pretty severe rivalry throughout history, and not all of that is just magically gone now. They have done a pretty good job at, like, repairing relations. Like, France and Britain, our timeline, were enemies for about 1 trillion years, and then they kind of became allies around, like, Napoleon, or right after Napoleon, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, so it's kind of like that, except these guys didn't do as good as a job as becoming friendly with each other. Now that they're in this brand new economic alliance, and things aren't going too well, as they're kind of arguing about, like, who gets what, and, like, maybe, like, oh, this ship from Oman was meant to go to this city's port, but it went to this city's port, and then I had to get all the way over here, and we didn't want that, and that cost us extra. So, yeah, these guys are not too happy with each other, and they're considering going to war. We have some tensions along the borders. The rest of the Circle Alliance is going to send over their diplomats to be like, hey, guys, stop it. You should stop it right now. And this kind of works as, well, I'll tell you now that they don't go to war. However, we are going to see another slightly unintended side effect, which is that the probably the blue Indian team kind of feels like the Circle Alliance is a little bit more biased towards, that's the right word. They're a little bit more biased towards the gray country, gray India. And so they're pretty upset about that, and they're going to be like, okay, well, we don't like you guys. They're going to leave the Circle Economic Alliance as a result, and they're actually going to join the Diamond Star Alliance, the Diamond Military Alliance. And one last thing quickly, if you remember, there's still rebellions going on over in this area of, the Indus River Valley people. That's what I call them. Even though I recently learned that the Indus River Valley is actually more like, straight up, it's like Pakistan, but and I mean, Pakistan still is kind of mostly in this country. But I mean, we're talking about rebellions over here, which are very deep within India. But also, you guys need to fix your alliance layer map thing. We're only going to put, like, well, that looks not good. Oh, what? Why does it still do that? There. Okay, we're only going to put you and you in the alliance. You are going to be a little rebel and not join. So, yep. Anyway, that means it is now time for power rankings. So, number 1, to almost no one's surprise, I'm sure, is going to be Tuscany. Or, I think last episode I said I was going to switch to calling them just France. Because, I mean, look at them. They are literally just France now. Their capital is up in France. Actually, that's like barely in France. It's almost in Belgium, but still, that is in France. And, I mean, come on, these guys are basically just France. Number 2. Number 2. There's definitely a lot of potential contenders. Let's see, it was 3, Korea, 4, I think 2, is 2 just Gibraltar? I think it might be. 3 is probably Baikal, 4 is probably Golden Horde, 5, I'm going to give it over to Yucatan. Do I want to put them higher, though? I think I do. We're going to say that they're 3rd now. 3rd is Yucatan, 4th is Baikal, 5th is Golden Horde, 6th, probably another American country, maybe like, could be Alabama, definitely, yeah, I'm going to say it's Alabama. 7 is going to be California, 8 is going to be, 8 is going to be Oman. I'm going to put Oman above California. 7 Oman, 8 California. 9 is going to be like, is it going to be the blue team, or, I'm going to give it to China. 10, blue team, it could be the blue team, it could be Egypt, it could be Brazil. I'll give it to Egypt. Then 11, actually, I'll give it to the blue team, / Caucasia. Then 11, Egypt. 12, Brazil. 13, we're going to do, I guess, the top 15. 13 will be Cambodia. 14, I think we'll get, well, actually, 13 will be Austria. Yep. And then 14 will be Cambodia. This one. Actually, no, South China. South China. And then 15 is Cambodia. So there are our top 15 power rankings for episode 55 of What If History Restarted. And this is also now, let's bring them back. But this is also now going to be the end of the episode. So, goodbye.